everybody. Welcome to another week of Available Work. Thank you all for joining one more time. Norman Garza Jr. from the Texas Space Commission is here with us. Hey, Norman, how are you been?
Well, sir, thanks for having me. Howdy.
Awesome. Howdy. Hey, this is space. This is our space episode. We're very excited to have you here, and thanks for taking the time out to do this. Probably the belle of the ball when it comes to state agencies and most interest and very excitement. I mean, we're literally talking about space now.
Literally talking about space. Thankfully, the Texas legislature and the governor, as you well know, started to lean in on this conversation about 2 years ago. The 2023 session really drove the ball, and it's been a whirlwind since. We've got a 9-person board of directors that were appointed, 3 by the governor, 3 by the lieutenant governor, 3 by the House Speaker, and they have some incredible backgrounds. They are not your typical political appointees. They are subject matter experts when it comes to this field, and they've got some big ideas. So it's been real fun to work with them for the past year.
That's great. You're the inaugural executive director of
the newest state agency in Texas called the Space Commission. I started in July. I'm very privileged to sit in this position.
That's awesome. We're going to pick your brain on it. Bonnie Downs is here today again. Hi, Bonnie.
Hello.
How are things?
It's going great.
All
Busy
business?
as always. Yes.
Business is business.
Texas is business.
That's great.
Like to
And
say.
Katie McKee is also on the microphone here, making sure we move in the right direction. Thanks, Katie.
Always happy to be here.
We're going to get into it. Obviously, the Space Commission is pretty lauded and talked about. And with everything that's happening here in Texas, we're obviously the center. I would consider we're the center for space, for going back to LBJ, going back to Kennedy, going back to oil drilling. I mean, it's just space production, wildcatters, everything. It's kind of our DNA when it comes to exploration and the grit that you need to get a big hunk of metal up into space, right?
You're right, and Governor Abbott likes to remind everybody, starting off most of his conversations or speeches regarding the Space Commission with a question, which is, what's that first word that we all who are here on Earth heard from space? Houston. And your point now, sir, Houston, Texas, whether it's oil and gas or Space City, USA now, in terms of Johnson Space Center's legacy, has certainly been part of the reason why the commercial space economy has become such a thing in Texas. But it's not necessarily only in Houston. Obviously, the 2 largest brands that are worldwide known, SpaceX launching from Boca Chica Beach down in Brownsville, Texas, down the road from the hospital I was born in Harlingen, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
But also Blue Origin out in West Texas, near Van Horn in Culberson County. And it was because of those 2 brands in particular that decided to pick Texas as the location to literally operate and launch from, that I believe enough folks in Austin at the Capitol started to pay attention and say, we really need to get our hands around this and understand what this means for Texas, for the Texas economy, the Texas workforce, and the next generation specifically.
Yeah. You have a lot of well, obviously, let's go into your experience. I've always been a big fan of yours since you were at Farm Bureau and all the work you've been doing with Farm Bureau, having an agriculture background and just being very supportive of the ag community.
Thanks.
And your alma mater is at A&M, correct?
So I went to St. Edward's University in Austin,
okay.
Texas, but I worked at Texas A&M for 10 years.
That's right.
I on their government relations team within the engineering portfolio, the flagship campus in College Station, all of its related campuses down in the Valley, Galveston, D.C., and otherwise as well. But I don't have the same Aggie ring as everybody.
Yeah, but you represent them. Well,
I'm wearing a maroon tie.
Figuratively and literally represent the A&M system very well.
Thank you.
And you've done a lot for the system. How much of that experience, of your past experience, goes into being able to captain this agency and see the vision ahead of us?
Great question. It was because of some of the professors at Texas A&M University while I was there who were being called upon, whether it was from their time at Johnson Space Center up in D.C. Or of interest here at the Capitol, folks like Dr. Nancy Curry Gregg, retired Army aviator, colonel, former astronaut, now teaches at A&M.
Yeah.
She was appointed to be the director of the Texas A&M Space Institute, and she was also vetted and appointed to the Texas Space Commission Board of Directors. Folks like her and others that I got to work with while I was still there is what really helped me learn and get excited about this topic as a new state agency. Granted, most people growing up at some point in time are infatuated with space. Me too, but I never went to like space camp or anything like that. But it was my time at A&M where I was able to be in the room with these really incredibly smart folks, where I got to understand what it really means, not just from the technology aspect, but also from the national security perspective, also from just this incredible aura, if you will, on other things that can be manufactured or experiments conducted in zero gravity that will affect the rest of us here on Earth, mere mortals that will probably never leave the dirt, as a positive benefit because of what can be done up in space. But it was my time at A&M where I really got to get a handle of why this is so important.
That's awesome.
And when you got the call from Governor Abbott to take this position, what did that mean to you? And I know the governor is so forward thinking. He always talks about space, AI, semiconductors. We're trying to get ahead of this.
That's right.
When you got the call from him to lead this commission, what did that mean to you? And, just to keep that forward thinking for Texas.
Thanks. It was a true honor, honestly. It was an honor that my time in the room with these incredible folks has stood out enough for him and others in his office to realize that it would be the right kind of risk to take on someone like me to help stand up something like this. I mean, it's a huge new opportunity for the state. And you're right. He often refers to the Space Commission, the Texas CHIPS office, all of the nuclear power related conversations that are underway right now during session as well as the big drivers of the Texas economy and the Texas workforce. So it was, when I was at Farm Bureau, I thought I was going to stay there forever. When I was at A&M, I thought I was going to stay there forever. I don't know how long I'll be able to stay in this position, but it's really cool, and I'm very honored to be in this position for right now. And it's really not only because of the trust from the governor and his team, but also the members of this board of directors. I mentioned that we've got 9 who are the governing body. We also have another group that were appointed. They're the non-governing body. They're an advisory consortium. The acronym is TARSEC, T-A-R-S-E-C. And these two are some really incredible folks with wonderful expertise and experiences, also former astronauts, academicians, people from the venture capital world, et cetera. So working with these 9+ people on a daily basis is very motivating. And for me to understand why they're so motivated, that's the message I would love to continue to share with the rest of Texas. So thank you for this opportunity and this platform right now to share that message.
Yeah, we appreciate it. The obviously, our audience, we consider our audience our the business community in the state of Texas, employers, our workforce development boards all across the state. This is such good news. We continue to bring industry in. Obviously, you on a global stage, on a
literally
like Glenn Hammer says, a galactic stage when it comes down to it. So, how can the employers, businesses, workforce development types, what do we need to start looking at internally to be able to support these industries? And it's not just making rockets and sending them up.
That's right.
Kind of affects everything.
So honestly, it's the TARSEC group who are going to begin some survey questionnaire type engagements with the folks that have already been coming to their workshops. They've held, I think, 4 to date. The most recent one was last week in Fort Worth. Yeah. They've also held one in San Antonio, in Austin, in Houston. I believe there's one scheduled for next month down in the Rio Grande Valley. Plans in 2025 out in West Texas as well as up in the DFW area. But what your office and this agency, the Texas Workforce Commission, could do is encourage employers to share information, whether it's with the Space Commission staff, like me and my colleagues, or this consortium, TARSEC, the actual job descriptions, the actual skill sets, the actual needs that their HR folks are trying to solve for, so that amongst this greater group of people, we can help share that message. And perhaps one day there's maybe just a very specialized portal for anybody that wants to work in the space industry within this great state to go and find a job, whether it's welders, whether it's at the PhD level, whether it's farmers and agronomists, because you got to eat in space too, whether it's people that are working on the business side, they want to be an accountant or a lawyer or even a doctor for that matter. UTMB has a huge space medicine program. So what we need from employers that want to participate in the space economy in Texas is a list of the actual jobs that they're trying to fill, the skill sets that they're trying to identify, and the locations that they prefer people to be in order for them to be hired. Because not everything requires, as you know, folks to be where the headquarters of a company is. People could live in small town Texas with a good broadband connection and still contribute to the mission writ large. Places like TSTC do a real good job at going into a community or identifying an opportunity when it comes to a certain sector. My time at A&M, I was able to work with the Texas State Technical College system, specifically at the Port of Brownsville, with a lot of those programs that they're doing down there, unrelated to space, but in proximity to the Starbase location there. So what we need from employers at some point is those skill sets, because there's a lot of them that can also be transferred. We started the conversation with reference to oil and gas. There's a lot of transferable skills between the oil and gas sector and the space sector. Folks are still dealing with fluids. They're still dealing with hazardous materials. They're still dealing with advanced materials in extreme environments. They're still dealing with all kinds of examples that are applicable to both industry sectors. So it's that information flow from employers to answer your question that we need.
You mentioned strategic partnerships with like TSTC, Texas State Technical Colleges. Are there any local community colleges that y'all have a good relationship with, or literally putting a thumb into producing the type of technicians that would be useful in the space industry? Are y'all having more partnerships across the state for any of that?
So, reminder, when Governor Abbott announced the governing body and the advisory consortium at a press conference March 2024 at Johnson Space Center, he challenged every president or chancellor of an institution of higher education in Texas to create a space-related degree. Space engineering, space business, and it's different than aerospace.
Right.
Aerospace is often bifurcated to aviation, and that's not what this is. And so first, to answer your question, all institutions of higher education in Texas, per statute, House Bill 3447 by Dr. Greg Bonin, passed in 2023, invites all agencies, all campuses to identify a local liaison to the TARSEC group. So every 2-year, 4-year needs to be able to say, here's my person, keep in touch with them, and help us understand, help us, meaning the Space Commission, understand what it is that local campus wants to do to help solve for those gaps when it comes to this ecosystem.
And I think that's critical that you do have that liaison directly into those campuses. I see that a lot of campuses that have our local workforce solution boards represented, integrated into those campuses do really well, and I think that's a great partnership that y'all should continue to use.
We plan to. San Jacinto Community College, Austin Community College. We have heard from many, and we want to hear from all of them.
Great.
Speaking about employers, this is kind of hot off the press here. Texas Space Commission awards $26 million to 5 companies. And I know this isn't the first round of awards, so maybe you want to talk about those.
Absolutely.
And kind of where that's gone.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So in addition to kind of coming up with the strategic direction for the state in terms of the commercial space economy, the board of directors are also administering a $150 million grant fund. And a week ago, to your point now, they chose 5 companies: Aegis Aerospace, Icon Technologies, Interloon, KULR, and Venus Aerospace as the most recent round of awards. In February, they made another round, $21.5 million. That included Blue Origin, SpaceX, Intuitive Machines, Starlab, and Firefly. And those last 2 companies actually have assets that landed on the moon in March 2025. And then back in January was their first round for $47.7 million. That included a lot of entities out in West Texas, El Paso County, the Borderplex Alliance, and some council of governments as well. To your point, these are what has risen to the top of the stack from our 9 evaluators. The board of directors are the evaluators. For 5 months, I believe, September through January, our grant application was open. Within that time period, we received 281 applications from 140 unique entities, and the combined funding request was $3.46 billion worth of projects. We only have $150 million. Mm-hmm. So I told you we've made 3 rounds. We're sitting at a balance still now. The board is continuing to go through those proposals and intends to meet again in May, again in June, again in July, as long as it takes to get through that 150. And then we'll see if there's a replenishment before session concludes in just a few weeks.
Yeah, I encourage people to read the news. Just some interesting topics in here. Let's see. Rocket engine test facility, working on batteries with improved performance at low temperatures. So it's just exciting stuff when you start talking about space and really all that goes into it.
That's right. These are technologies that really will move the needle. Those hardware assets that I described, literally lunar landers that made it to the moon just a few weeks ago from 2 companies here in Texas. Starlab is in Houston and Firefly in Cedar Park. They're only able to operate for a certain amount of time because they only have a finite amount of energy and its battery source. And they're going to parts of the moon where there's not always sunlight.
Yeah.
So a solar array isn't the simple solution to harness more energy to make sure that it's able to continue to operate. And they're working on technology, or they're working on experiments rather, like drilling into the core of the moon to identify ice crystals and particles that can be analyzed to determine whether or not it's got the right pH level to potentially one day be potable water as a source, perhaps, for ongoing presence of humans on the moon. It's these kinds of things that the companies based here in Texas are working on today. It's not sci-fi in the future.
Right.
It's happening right now, and people can work there and be part of it.
It's literally dreamed up and then becomes reality when it comes down to it. That's would you consider that kind of the return on investment for a lot of these businesses is the opportunity to discover technology? Is that what we're looking for?
That's right. I mean, I've got buddies and my brother and others that are like, "Oh, how does the suit fit?" You know, I don't have a spacesuit, and I don't have keys to the rocket.
Did you join this just to get like the cool puns?
Touche.
We need more space.
Right. No, it's truly economic development oriented as the purpose of this investment by the state of $150 million, the time and energy that's being devoted by these 9 people, and also the consortium volunteers as well. They're not paid for this position, but their minds are the best of the best here in Texas to help the state move the ball and invest in the best opportunities, these technologies that really will make a difference. These technologies that are of interest, by the way, to NASA, they're also of interest to the United States Space Force, and other countries are paying attention to those companies that are based here in Texas, the technologies that the Texas Space Commission is investing in, and the outcomes, hopefully sooner rather than later, that will all be realized. And we're really solving for 2 opportunities. Keeping those companies that are already present here and helping them expand their existing footprint, but also make sure they don't leave, and therefore inviting through a little bit of enticement those companies that aren't yet in Texas to decide to set up shop somewhere here in the Lone Star State.
Absolutely. And I just love that Texas is leading the way. I did see that there's one other state that has a space commission, but I will not mention that state. But I guarantee you we are doing way more than they are.
We are.
Identified, space. The U.S. identified the need for a space force, right?
Oh, yeah.
And we're talking about logistics. We're talking about strategy, communication. I mean, I'm wearing a GPS watch right now. I'm communicating with space right now as we're sitting here, right? That's the importance of the industry. But of course, when it comes to seeing the the strength that the Texas economy can bring through. That's what we're investing in.
Bingo.
We're looking for it.
Just a week and a half ago now, maybe, won't mention the state, but we were at a conference called the Space Symposium. Yep. It's hosted annually. This was the 40th annual symposium by a national organization called the Space Foundation. Mm-hmm. It's led by retired General Heather Pringle, PhD. And this is the place where every state goes, every country comes, every military general that has something to do with space attends. And we were fortunate, we being the Texas Space Commission, were fortunate to also be accompanied by the Secretary of State, Jay Nelson from Texas, representing Governor Abbott, to tell everybody there that Texas is open for business when it comes to space, when it comes to the employment market, when it comes to the technologies, et cetera. And the reception by thousands of people at this national conference with Secretary Nelson delivering that message is still reverberating across the country. I'm still getting letters and emails from folks saying, we're paying attention. We know other states have something similar as a commission, such as the Texas Space Commission. But right now, lots of attention and focus underway with what is going on here in Texas, thankfully.
And I think that's what separates Texas is we have that can-do attitude.
That's right.
We will do whatever we can. We kind of make lemonade out of lemons. Whatever kind of situation we're in, we will rise above and always say that Texas is open for business. And we have the Secretary of State, the governor, as the cornerstone, kind of screaming that message from the rooftop. So I'm sure that was just a great to have her there.
I think if I get it right, her analogy was originally pioneers coming to Texas were on horseback. Today, pioneers from Texas are on rockets.
I love it.
That's amazing. Norman, is there any one, I mean, there can't be, I don't want to pigeonhole you to just to one thing. Look at your 10-year outlook here, and whether you're at the same, whether you're at the same helm you're doing now, or where do you want to see Texas in the space industry in 10 years?
Sure.
It's realistic.
Well, what's realistic, honestly, is Texas is the epicenter for the nation when it comes to the commercial space economy.
Okay.
What I mean by that is we've got 2 commercial providers launching that are literally the workhorses, if you will, for the United States government. There's opportunity for more places in Texas, not just Boca Chica, not just Van Horn, to also be those locations. Now, it doesn't all have to be launch.
Right.
There's what goes up has to come down. And so there's a whole other conversation about return and reentry. There's places like West Texas. Midland, Texas, by the way, is an FAA-designated spaceport. The other in Texas is Ellington Field. Those are the 2 public FAA-designated spaceports. There are others that are private, but those 2 in particular. So let me go back to West Texas and your question about 10 to 20 years out. There's an opportunity for Texas to be the place of return and reentry, not just launch. There's other countries, like in Australia, that want to be the place for things to come back, especially when it comes to robots and assets that are operated autonomously, that are bringing back samples, whether it's from the moon or Mars or asteroids or otherwise. Why can't West Texas, that looks a little bit like the outback of Australia, that's really trying to position themselves to be this spot when it comes to reentry and return operations, aside from kangaroos, kind of looks the same. And if those communities out there want to position themselves to be that opportunity, now it's their decision at the local level, granted, why not? It's these kinds of things that all of Texas, if those local communities so choose, they can have a little bit of a piece of the pie or a part of the puzzle, if you will. Places like right here in Central Texas. Burnett and Williamson County recently passed resolutions at the local level to create a spaceport development corporation. This is different than an economic development corporation. Yeah. So if other communities across the state want to also follow that lead and create one themselves and send the smoke signal across the country and around the world saying, yes, my county or my town wants to be part of any opportunity, whether it's satellite manufacturing or launch or reentry, or otherwise for that matter, that's what is possible over the next 10, 20 years when it comes to every county in Texas that would like to participate in this conversation, they have that opportunity to do so.
And that's critical because they're making the decisions now that could reinforce their infrastructure to become higher up on that site selection process when it comes down to stuff coming out into your neighborhood. And that's amazing. I was able to meet with Commissioner Brad Morrison out in Bernie not too long ago when this first came around, because we definitely wanted to make sure that our workforce was aware. We're pushing advanced manufacturing. We're pushing STEM,
cyber, lots of other things. He's on
cybersecurity.
He's on the speaker circuit in and around Central Texas and around the state. Air Force Academy grad, veteran himself of the Air Force, knows how to speak that military lingo when it comes to these opportunities, especially when you're talking about the transition. Folks that are leaving service and wanting to still serve, but do so out of uniform. We also have the privilege of Dr. Heather Wilson, the current president of the University of Texas at El Paso, former secretary of the Air Force. She was the secretary of the Air Force when Space Force was created under the first Trump administration. She, too, is on our board of directors.
Just going down the list of those appointments was stacking after stacking after stacking.
So Brad and Heather and Nancy and our board chair, Gwen Griffin, and the rest of the team, they've got some big ideas, and we're excited to be part of anything that the Texas Workforce Commission wants to lean in on, as well as whatever the outcomes are from session right now as well.
Well, Norman, this is our basic introduction to the state through our audience on the Space Commission and the space industry. I can't wait to really get into maybe detailed subjects with you later on down the road and catch up with you.
Looking forward to it.
If there is any plan on any contest on designing a patch, I would.
Are you in?
I want to be in on
Okay,
that.
got it.
Definitely, we can get that going.
We'll circle back.
I think it's probably the only agency that would warrant having their own patch.
I love that.
Yeah, I know some agencies have coins and things, which is cool.
Let's make it happen.
I can't thank you enough. Again, Norman, I appreciate it. I've been looking forward to this episode for quite some time. Thanks for doing this, Norman. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Norman.
Thank you both.
Thank you all again. Folks, do us a favor. If you like the information you're getting from us, having all of our great guests like Norman Garza today, share this with people. Send this out to your friends. There's always great information that's going to pop or pique the interest of somebody who could use it. Follow us, subscribe, do all the things. Tweet us out. We appreciate you doing it.